Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very proud to present to you our next very distinguished guest, who for quite a while now has been an excellent source for information on artists, arts around the world of all sorts, categories and variations. I'm very proud to present to you Régine Desbâtis.
Hi everyone, so yes, I'm Régine Desbâtis and I'm a blogger. Most of the time I write on a blog called We Make Money Not Art about what artists are doing with technology. So I will explain it a bit later. And I just start with a warning, is that if you had a look at the program online and at my extract, I will not talk about that. I changed my plan at the last minute. I was supposed to talk about how artists are dealing with surveillance society and CCTV camera, and then I thought, no, it will be too much like what I did last year with UC, and I don't want to repeat it, even if I give another context, even if I give other examples. And then UC is not there, so it will be less cool anyway. He's in Finland skiing or whatever. So I changed the topic, and so 2 days ago I thought, yeah, what I'm going to talk about, I don't know, and I had these very not smart ideas, which was, why not follow the theme of the conference, which is about trust. Like Tim said yesterday, our society is in need of trust, but should we trust anyone? So the kind of project I'm going to explore now, project by artists who explore this notion of trust, or more the contrary of it. So I will show example of people, or kind of people, or societies, organizations which we shouldn't trust, and which are not the one you would expect when you think about not trusting someone or something. But first of all, I'm not sure how many of you really are familiar with new media art, so I thought I would start very quickly and by a very dirty and super fast introduction to new media art as I see it myself. Something more about me is that I have no background in art nor technology. I started blogging in March 2004. I just discovered that there was these people doing things they were not supposed to do with technology. I mean, these artists, they have something in common with hackers, is that they get the user manual of technology and they're just not happy with it. They just immediately see the limits and want to do other things and go beyond the kind of stuff they're supposed to do. So I started this blog, and it was kind of documenting what my finding, because I knew nothing, but I was interested. I had loads of time at the office because I had a very boring job. And I'm still 2.5 years after that. I'm still not an expert. I still have lots of things to learn. But I learned a few things, such as these new media artists, these people playing around with technology. They are not just fun or poetical. They also, I think, have a role very important and crucial in society. And I'm going to show 3 kind of roles they could play. And then I will talk about these trust projects. But first, my very quick introduction. With a project that I guess some of you know, because it's been developed by a company of artists and interaction designers based in Berlin. It's called TerraVision. It's an installation which was developed around in '94. And so you're in front of a globe, and you can navigate the globe and go from one part of the Earth to the other. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can overlay some other information like weather or pollution. You can zoom and trigger, like on Potsdamer Platz, and trigger a video shooted decades ago. And it's I mean, it can be very precise and give good images, but it depends on the resolution of the satellite images it gets. So sometimes you can see people on the images, and sometimes just buildings. And with this description, it's just Google Earth, except that it was 10 years before Google Earth. You couldn't have it at home on your computer, and I think that the design of TerraVision was way cooler. But so I'd say that this is the first role of artists, is that they are not forecasters, they're not writing science fiction, but by paying attention to some of their work, you can really get a glimpse of what tomorrow could bring. if I have to be fair, I'd say that there are other projects that really give an idea of what Google Earth would bring. And I'd just like to mention this other one, which is from the 80s, and it's by a guy called Michael Neymark, and he made this Golden Gate flyover, and this time it's just limited, it's just around the Bay Area. And it's not satellite images, there was images he took with a camera from a helicopter. But it was the same, you could navigate and zoom across the surface. Another very quick example that I'll take this time from the 60s. They were not really new media artists, they were just a group of avant-garde architects, and they were called Archigram. They were active in the 60s and early 70s, and they were more like dominating the avant-garde of architecture. They didn't really build anything. I think they built a playground, an exhibition, and a swimming pool for Rod Stewart, if you know that singer. And what they imagined was the walking city. So Ron Heron, which was one of the Archigram guys, imagined this city which would mean people would hop into the walking city and go from one place to the other. If they are bored with the place, they would just go to another. If they have exhausted energy resources, they would just step into the walking city and go to another location. It's more complicated than that, but that was one of the features of the walking city. And now, I think it's really, really similar to this project, which dates back to last year. There was a competition in the UK asking studios of architects to come up with ideas for the new Antarctic surveys, so where the researcher would research about the environment in Antarctic, and the winning project is this one. So it's a kind of city. It's where there's the laboratory, there's the place where the researchers are sleeping, eating, relaxing, and doing basically everything. And it's in the Antarctic, and it would sit on a thick level of ice. And it doesn't exactly walk. It has long legs, and it's built on ski, the kind of, I don't know if you see it very well, it's not feet, but kind of ski. So what happens when the researcher, the scientist detects that the level of ice that the station is standing on is getting too thin or too fragile, or they risk to drift into the ocean on an iceberg, they are just pushed, they get a bulldozer and they are just pushed to another location. And I'm sure, I mean, Archigram have influenced many architects over the decades. Think about the biggest architects, and most of them will say, yeah, we've been influenced by Archigram. And I think this is a clear indication, a clear example. So that was the first rule, I'd say, of artists, which to give an idea of what tomorrow could bring. Another role they play, which is very important to me, is that they just make technology funnier and more engaging. And for someone like me, I don't have a background in technology, and I'm still quite intimidated by technology. And the fact that they give it more appeal and bring it to me, and sometimes bring a smile on the face of people who are kind of afraid of technology, I think it's very important. So just one example. It's called NetCuckoo. It's a project from 2001, and these two Spanish designers, they made this, it's a cuckoo clock, except that it doesn't give the time. Every 15 minutes, it just displays the headlines from newspaper. And there's something else, there's a switch, and if you're someone who has from the sympathies from the political party from the left, you would just put the switch to the left, and you would have the headlines from newspaper from the left wing, and the contrary if you have sympathies for political parties from the right. He made 8 examples. They made 8 objects like this. Which really comment on, one, you could take it on 2 ways. One, on the fact that many people are still, they would still really be interested in surfing the net and getting news about anything that, about their obsession. It can be star gossips, it can be the headlines, it can be porn or anything. But they're just still afraid of internet, of computer, and just very easy handle. They're just easy to handle objects. They are not threatening. They are objects they would find in your kitchen. And this other one is just a book where you can see webcam from the designer called them Vivacious Ladies. But the third role of artists, which is probably the most crucial, is that they have a critical eye on society and on society in general, and on the way we use and we see technology. So I will give several examples, and that's when I'm going to talk about trust. So the first project I'm going to talk about is when these new media artists are having a critical eye on the contemporary art itself. With this artist called Darko Maver. Darko Maver was a Serbian sculptor, and he became famous in 1998. He was walking around ex-Yugoslavia and leaving sculpture in hotel rooms, in empty houses, toilets, along the road. This is the kind of sculpture he was doing, like it were dummies which imitated dead bodies or fetus, or really bodies having had to suffer the atrocities of the Balkan Wars. Very quickly he got arrested because, yeah, it wasn't very patriotic what he was showing, so all his dummies have been destroyed. And the art community in the rest of Europe, especially in Italy, got very interested, and they started campaigning and talking about the freedom of art and trying to organize exhibition and wrote about it in magazine, and critics started to try to interpret the work of the artist. And really, the top of it was in 1999. A documentary about his work was shown at the Venice Biennale. So I don't know if everybody knows the Venice Biennale. It's really the top in the art world. It's traditional. It's one of the oldest art biennale and of contemporary art. So the problem is that it was a fake. The artist never existed at all. So just after the Art Biennale, the artist who totally created the personality of this artist and his work, I'm not going to pronounce their name, it's this vortex of 0 and 1 over there. And they just said, yeah, it doesn't exist. There's no dummies at all. We just found the images. They are really images of the atrocities of war. They were on the internet, and what we want to say is just that we want to show the mechanism of contemporary art. And it's like, you know, they're not the first who do that. I mean, Duchamp did it with his urinoir, and they just want to take the example of Marcel Duchamp and go to the extreme. There's no urinoir, there's no object at all. There's something immaterial. They're just images on the internet. And in 1 year, they went from 0, from something inexistent, to the Venice Biennale. So that's the first example, and it's getting even more interesting when these artists, I mean, this is another kind of artist, try to make us reflect about society in general. This first example is from a Dutch woman. She's a photographer, a performer. She's called Nicoline van der Kemp. And during several years, she really explored the world of public and private security guard and police forces, and very documented the way they dress, etc. And she made several performances in several cities, and one was in Istanbul. She just found 2 actors. She gave them fake identities and a uniform with logos, stuff like that she bought on a shopping mall, and say, yeah, just go in the street and do nothing. And very quickly, the people, these 2 guys, they kind of met other guards or people from the police. They were shaking hands, and they were like, suddenly they became colleagues. People were asking direction, asking them to help because someone had stolen a purse, or they even maneuver a